What's going on, everyone? So in today's video, I want to briefly talk to you about who is Michael Jordan. Now, everybody, when you say the name Michael Jordan, there's one person that comes to mind, and that is obviously the six-time world NBA champion with the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. So in this video, I want to briefly talk to you about who he is, where did he come from, and where is he at right now? Because everybody knows him as Michael, the NBA player, one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. But what is he up to in today's world? So stay tuned for that. Awesome, guys. So Michael Jordan, actually, he was born in New York City in 1963. I was in the Marine Corps back in 2003, 2005. And it's a small little town, very small little town. That it's not one of your typical big cities where you see big buildings. It's a very small little town. There's a lot of buildings out there that you'll find very colonial, very old style, if you want to call it like that. The point is that that's where Michael Jordan grew up. So he went to North Carolina State where he was in college, actually. And once again, Michael Jordan is known for wearing number 23 in the Chicago Bulls. But just like all of us, he had a little bit of he had a lot of history or where he came from. And one of the things for me that intrigues me the most, that I find it more very interesting, is how did he do it? How did he get all of those accomplishments done as a human being who went through a lot of challenges, especially in the early stages of his NBA career? Not even to say, because not many people know some of the struggles that he actually went through high school and college as well. But in 1982, he was actually the freshman. He was the North Carolina Freshman of the Year, and he actually joined the NBA in 1984 with the third pick overall with the Chicago Bulls. He was actually after number one was Hakeem Olajuwon, and then number two was Sam Bowie with the Trail Blazers. I say that because this is very interesting. The Trail Blazers picked Sam Bowie, who many ESPN analysts say that was one of the worst picks of all time, the biggest bust of all time. Why? Because they passed on Michael Jordan, and then eventually the Chicago Bulls picked up on Michael Jordan. The rest was history. So Michael Jordan was drafted in 1984 with the Chicago Bulls. He then eventually went on to win the championships in 1991, 1992, and then 1993. But not all was roses and parades and beautiful walks of life. There was a lot of struggles. There is actually a documentary, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure most of you have already heard of it, which is called The Last Dance, and you can find it on Netflix as well. It's about 6 episodes, and every episode is about an hour and a couple minutes. But there you'll find a lot of history that Michael Jordan, a lot of struggles that they had to go through. Because again, when somebody performs at a bigger level, at a world level like that, all we see as fans of basketball or whatever sport we are watching, all we see is when they're performing. You see Michael Jordan passing the ball, you see hitting the shots, you see him congratulating his teammates, you see them winning, you see them maybe sometimes losing, but then you see all these shots that they make that you're like, wow, how do they even do it? There's a lot of work that goes behind stage during practice. And let me tell you, if you've been part of that environment, because I haven't personally played for professional sports, but I've been in an environment where the challenges, they call you out. And a lot of the times for me personally has happened when you take it personal. In this series, I say that because there's a lot of stuff that you find very, very challenging. That, like I said, there was fights with coaches, with Scottie Pippen and some of the teammates and ownership, what have you. What I find it very interesting is how do they overcome that, and they're still able to go out there and perform at a very high level. So that's one of the things that for me, really intrigued me the most, because again, during the early seasons of Michael Jordan career, he went on to the conference finals. He went on to the playoffs. He went on even to the deep into the playoffs, the conference finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, and where he lost a couple times actually to the Pistons. The Pistons, who actually won the championship back to back. I want to say maybe 80 and 89 and 90. They were known as the Bad Boys, and they were the ones that actually took Michael Jordan out of the playoffs multiple times. And you can only imagine how that feels. You can only imagine what can that do to your self-confidence when you are expected to be the superstar, when you're expected to be the one that's going to carry the team and is going to put him at a championship level. You can only imagine how that feels. And then when you don't accomplish that, most people give up. Most people feel complacent. Most people feel okay, which is what I was talking about in one of the videos that I made when it became to achievers and overachievers. Well, Michael Jordan at his level was an overachiever, because he could have easily said, I made it to the NBA, I'm good. I was drafted number 3. I score a lot of points. I've taken my team to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times. Maybe I want to take a step back. But what did Michael do? He went on and moved forward with it. He took on the challenge. He took on the weight on his shoulders and carried an entire city, an entire team, not by himself, but he was the face of everything else. So when you are the face of a franchise, that can only put a lot of weight. Anyways, Michael Jordan went on to win the 1991, 1992, 1993 NBA championships. He then went on to retire in 1994, in 1995 due to the murder of his dad, who was a big fan of baseball. And actually during that time, Michael Jordan went on to play baseball in the minor leagues with the White Sox. And obviously it didn't go. He was meant to be a basketball player. But the point that I'm trying to say is that even then he went on taking a challenge. He did it more than anything in the memory of his father, because it really took a toll on himself, knowing that his father had passed away. He was murdered. That is the reason why he retired in 1994 through 1995. He then eventually came back at the end of 95 season. The Chicago Bulls they didn't make it to the NBA Finals, but the next year they did. So they went on to win the championships in 96, 97, and in 1998. He's actually the only player in history that has 2 three-peats back to back to back. So, and it's very interesting how it happened, because in 1994, he came back with number 45, representing years 94 and 95. I remember being a kid and seeing that 45. I didn't really understand what was happening. I didn't really understand what was going on, with the 45. All I knew was Air Jordan, Michael Jordan 23. And me growing up in the early 1990s, it was Michael Jordan was my idol. And when I would put on the shoes, when I would put on the Jordans, which is now one of the worldwide brands that he carries, the Air Jordans. A lot of players in the NBA, most players in the NBA still carry that brand of Air Jordan. You see a lot of them, with their Jordans. And there's a lot of players now, obviously, coming up with their own brands, like the Lebrons and actually the Kobe Bryants, Steph Curry now. But Air Jordan was actually the one that broke through the entire ability for everybody else, for every player that came after him, for them to be entrepreneurs as well, while they're still playing in the NBA. Think about that for a second. For you to be able to do so as a player and now as an owner, because now he owns the Charlotte Hornets, to do so now after you're gone, and then you still have players wearing your shoes, and then now you broke ground, you broke the way for most players, for a lot of players to come in and be able to carry themselves as entrepreneurs while they're still players in the NBA. You can only imagine, what an accomplishment that is for Michael Jordan to be able to have done that for every player that came after him.
The glove. I had no problem with the glove.
He mumbled something like, "Hey, Steve, be ready." He knew the camera was always on him, and I'm like oblivious.
He comes up, I'll be ready.
And then I'm like yelling back, like, "I'll be ready, I'll be ready."
We went into the huddle, and Phil told Michael, he said, "Michael, I want you to take the last shot." And Michael said, Phil, I don't feel real comfortable in these situations. So maybe we ought to go in another direction.
Jordan, open. Chicago with the lead.
At the end of the game.
So again, being able to put that on and leave that as a legacy in the NBA, and being able to break the ground for everybody else that's coming and play after you, that's very, very huge. Now, as I was saying, Michael Jordan is actually owner of the Charlotte Hornets. He was minority owner when the Charlotte Hornets moved from New Orleans. Actually, they were in New Orleans as New Orleans Hornets, and then they went on back to North Carolina, but they were known as the Bobcats. He was minority owner back then, but he eventually bought the owners out. Now he's majority owner of the Hornets, which are now known as the Charlotte Hornets. They were pretty big back in the early 1990s as well, and I remember it as well, being a big fan of the Hornets. And now they're back in North Carolina where they belong, and so now they're known as the Hornets. He's the majority owner of the Hornets. He's actually owner of a racing club, which is 23X1. They participate. They actually are part of the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's actually owner of that. He's the very first black owner in that sport, which that says a lot, because he also, again, is breaking the ground for minority owners, in this case, black owners, to come into big sports and be able to own a team. And I wouldn't be surprised if Magic Johnson comes in and eventually buys either an NBA team. He actually owns the Dodgers. I don't know how big of his ownership is, but he owns the Dodgers. But it won't surprise me if he eventually comes in into perhaps maybe buy the Lakers, or maybe another franchise out there. But for me, that says a lot, and I'm very, very impressed by what Michael Jordan's accomplishments have done. He's obviously worth over $1 billion, and he's joined clubs with Tiger Woods. But anyways, he has a very prolific scoring profile. I believe he is third in the all-time list. You got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then you got Kobe Bryant, and then obviously you got Michael Jordan, who is known as Air Jordan. But also, he's a 6-time NBA champion. He is a 11-time NBA scoring title, and he also has 6 Finals MVPs, which obviously 91 to 93, 96 to 98. That means a lot for obviously someone of that profile to come in. But then again, quickly, Michael Jordan came into the league 84 to 1993 when he retired the first time. Then he came in 95. Then he retired again in 1998. Obviously, this was at the top of his prime. And then he eventually came back in 2001 and retired for the last time in 2003 as a member of the Washington Wizards. So, also, Michael has a movie which I grew up watching when the movie was filmed. But Space Jam is one of the original movies, and actually one of the best movies that I remember seeing me growing up, that related me to basketball, that put me out there in the world, that I can relate to, just feeling like I was part of the game, which is what Michael Jordan does with all of his brand. And then think about that. For being an entrepreneur, right? You want your brand to connect with people. You want your brand to be able to touch globally and to touch as many people as you want to. Something that the community, something that people can relate to. And that is what Michael Jordan has been able to do as being part of, just a huge level of entrepreneurship, and put out the shoes out there, put out all of the shirts, the brand, the number 23 that he's globally known for. To be able to have that legacy, for me, that is what catches my attention ultimately. Not only that, but again, it's just the level of accomplishment that he was able to have in the NBA, and obviously all of the struggles that he had to go through, from the murder of his father, through the struggles of not being able to make it to the NBA Finals because you had the Pistons over here who were the bad boys and then knocked him out of the conference finals multiple times. And also the Celtics, who were led by Larry Bird at the beginning of 84, 85. And they were the ones, taking out Michael Jordan at the beginning. Even though he was scoring a lot of points, he was being taken out of the playoffs. But then eventually what happened was that he was able to understand that it wasn't about him. It's like, how do I make the people around me better? How can I make this player better? How do I make the point guard better? How do I make my center better? How do I make my point forward, my power forward better, or my small forward better? Which eventually attracted the talents of Dennis Rodman as the power forward, and then also Scottie Pippen as well, and Steve Kerr, who was the point guard, who is now the coach of the Golden State Warriors. And now, as you can see, the Golden State Warriors have dominated the league for the past 8 to 9 years, and that they're actually 4-time world champions in the last, 6 years, 8 years. Anyways, that's a little bit of what I wanted to share with you all of who is Michael Jordan. I know, obviously, a lot of you know who Michael Jordan is, but there's a little bit that you may not know on what it took for him to get to where he's at. And those are all the struggles, as I was saying, that he had to go early in his career in order for him to get there. And even though as he found those struggles coming to him, the ability to be able to adapt, the ability to be able to spot them, and the ability to swallow your ego, right? Swallow, which is one of the hardest things to do, because it has happened to me as well, where I'm like, no, whatever I say, it's gonna go. How many times did you not see that with Kobe Bryant, with Michael Jordan as well? But guess what? They had to learn from that. They had to be able to adapt in order for them to become great as they are today. But that is what most people can't really understand. And sometimes we judge on who's better, who's not. But it just really comes down to the beautiful way that they adapted in the game and outside of the game, and even during practice, for them to be able to build a team, build a championship team that they eventually went on to win 6 NBA championships with the NBA. Which, by the way, those are the only 6 championships that Chicago Bulls have up until this day. There are no other championships aside from the 6 that Michael Jordan was able to bring to the franchise from 1991 to 1993, 96 to 1998. Anyways, with that being said, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what do you know about Michael Jordan? What do you know about Michael Jordan? And who's the best of all time? Is it Kobe Bryant, or is it Michael Jordan? Or you think LeBron James is the greatest of all time? There's a lot of debate going on whether LeBron James is the best of all time. Obviously, it just comes down to who's the biggest fan of ball, which, by the way, LeBron James actually became a billionaire, the first active NBA player in the history that has been able to accomplish that. That's a huge milestone. That just goes to show you the level of entrepreneurship that LeBron James is also carrying, and it's a great debate, think about. But anyways, I just wanted to share with you a little bit of how I see Michael Jordan and the level of respect that I have for his work ethic that he put in, day out for almost 20 years in the NBA. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts. Who do you think is better? And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so. I know that there's many of you, outside of the country. Thank you so much for following us, and thank you so much. Let me know what type of content you would like for us to create in order to deliver to you. What is it that you would like to know for you to be entertained or to learn a little bit more from where you are that we can share from here, from the United States to you. And anyways, all of our social media is going to be down below. If you're not following us, please feel free to do so. Like, share the video, and we will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.